Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to call the school committee meeting to order on August 21st at 7 p.m. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Do we have any student representatives tonight, Dr.
They will
Vera?
be here for our first meeting in September.
Thank you so much. So we're going to open it up for public comment and communications for the public. As you all know, this morning the DESE approved mask mandate for all Massachusetts public schools. If somebody would like to comment, you are welcome to do so. I would ask that you be respectful of a 3-minute time limit. State your name, address, and be respectful of the community that's all here representative. So if anybody would like to, we'll open it up to you. Do we have anybody online?
Wait, somebody.
Please make a comment. There's 9 people watching. No comment yet.
Hello, sir. Yeah, absolutely. There's a mic right here for you, sir.
Good evening. My name is Nalt. I actually live in Oxford, Massachusetts, 21 Waite Street. However, I have 4 grandchildren that attend Douglas schools. And I love God. I love my family. I love my children, my grandchildren. I love my country. And I feel I would be remiss if I didn't stand up and speak on behalf of the kids. I think that the whole debate about a mask and a vaccine, for that matter, is less about health and safety and more about coerced control. And I believe this for several reasons, which are based on science. First of all, the typical face masks cannot protect you from airborne viruses such as COVID-19. The virus itself is only 0.1 microns in size, which is 0.00000. That's 5 zeros, 3937 inches. A human hair strand, just in comparison, is about 170 to 590 times larger. A mask will not prevent the virus from penetrating in or out. The FDA actually declared face masks approved for emergency use only back in April 18th of 2020. And there's actually a law, U.S. Code Title 21, Chapter 9, Subchapter Part E 360BBB-3. And that law is the authorization for medical products for use in emergencies. And that states that emergency use face masks cannot be mandated by law. It's illegal. So face masks essentially are ineffective, and they're also illegal to be mandated. And this doesn't even take into consideration the many potential physical and psychological issues that are associated with the prolonged use of a face mask by either children or adults, for that matter. It's just not good science. As far as the vaccines are concerned, I know this is not about vaccines, but the premise is that you make people wear masks if they don't get vaccinated. What's that? That's coercion, okay? And per the CCD itself, the survival rate for children under age 18 is 99.998% without any intervention. Children are not suspect, are not in danger with this COVID situation. And as far as the vaccine is concerned, the CDC itself says that there were 6,858 deaths, that's their number, over 1 million cases of adverse effects from the so-called vaccine, because it's not really a vaccine, even per CDC standards. It's an experimental gene therapy. And actually studies have shown in the past that only 1 to 2% of actual cases are reported to VAERS. So they're talking almost 7,000 deaths reported, and that's a very low number, I would say. Back in the 70s with the swine flu, there were only 25 deaths and very low-level adverse effects before that COVID vaccine was, or that swine flu vaccine was actually discontinued. A very low number. And the recent FDA approval for the Pfizer vaccine shouldn't fool us. The actual testing trials don't end until 2023, and the current testing that they're basing their approval on did not include a control group. The control group was varied so that it's not even scientifically valid. So I would say that to attempt to coerce vaccination on children by saying if you're not vaccinated, you're going to have to wear a mask
Thank you so much.
is irresponsible
3 minutes is up.
and even criminal.
So sorry.
Okay.
Thank
All right.
you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Anybody else? Anybody online?
There's somebody here.
Come on over.
I missed the beginning. This is just talking about the vaccines and the kids wearing masks.
It's public comments open for anything. It's not just precluded to the masks.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm
You state your name
Oh, my
and your
name's-
address, please, for us. Thank you.
Jennifer Butler, 25 Skyview Lane, Webster. I did school choice.
Does your child attend school here?
Yes. Yep. I have
Thank
2
you.
kids. One's
Thank
going
you.
into 4th and the other into kindergarten. I agree with everything that he said. The fact that the kids are at such a low risk for them to have to wear masks all day long. I have a 4-year-old who just turned 5. He's going into kindergarten. And honestly, I'm going to withdraw both of them because I'd rather homeschool and make it so that if my kid sneezes, he's not sneezing into a disgusting mask. But he's 5 years old. He doesn't even know, okay, I'm going to sneeze. I should take my mask off, get a tissue, put in my, these kids are being affected. He had a meltdown at the grocery store because he somehow lost his mask from walking to the car to the grocery store and hyperventilated and cried because he didn't want to get in trouble and he didn't want to get sick. So to calm him, I also had my daughter who was 6 months old at the time. I said, you know what, take my mask. And then he cried more because he thought I was going to get in trouble. The fact that everyone's saying that kids are not being affected, they are. And you guys should be advocating for them when the parents can't. So, the kids shouldn't be wearing masks. I gave him my mask and he thought I was going to get in trouble. I said, no one's going to get me in trouble. This was back in December. I haven't been wearing a mask since then, and I haven't been making my kids either. They shouldn't be wearing masks. And these little breaks where they can take them off to take a sip of water or take a bite of something, it's ridiculous. It's unsanitary. They're breathing in air they're breathing in and out their own air. They need to breathe healthy air. They need to play with each other. They need to be able to touch things and not be in a bubble. You guys need to be fighting for them. If enough parents and teachers fought for this, we could take away the masks. But everyone's sitting around and doing nothing and just going with the flow and saying, sure, put my kid in a mask all day, make them get a shot that is, God knows what's going to happen to them after they take it. And then the fact that you guys are saying that the kids who get the vaccine after October 1st, they don't have to wear masks, so you're going to out all these other poor kids who aren't going to get the vaccine. Kids are mean. You think that they're not going to be teased for wearing a mask all day and that their parents are not making them get that vaccine? It's bad, and you guys need to push for them. When a parent has a kid, we're here to protect them. And when we send them to school, that's your job to protect them too. So,
Thank you so much.
that was it.
Can I speak as a school committee and ask a question? Or no?
That's normally,
Do-
Public comment.
you can do.
I mean, I'm just curious, do we have the ability to make this decision, like to not wear masks
We
right
don't.
now?
No, we don't.
Our hands are tied no matter what, right?
Desi took it out of our hands by by voting this morning to pass 9-1, that they mandated us, the schools in Massachusetts, have to wear a mask.
Has anyone thought, has anyone said, no, we're not going to do it, we're not going to open our schools until we listen to what the parents have to say? Has anybody?
I don't think that's in our hands as a school to,
What does anyone in the school conduct? Or you just get the mandate, say, all right, we're gonna suck it up and do it. Do you guys think it's wrong for them to do that? Or do you think that that's fine and it should be like that?
Madam Chairperson, when I do my report, I can speak to that.
okay, thank you, sir. Dr. Vera. Dr. Vera will address that. It's out of our, as a school committee, it's out of our hands. We cannot vote on it. It's been taken from our hands. DESE has ruled that we will, and we have to follow what DESE tells us to do.
Well, let's go on strike. Get go on parents. How do you know that not 80, 90, 100% of parents don't want their kids wearing it? If every parent signed a petition and said, no, we're not sending our kids to school, what's going to happen? They could say no again. I mean, I totally get it. They could say no again, but why aren't we even asking parents for a vote? Or let's get a petition, like,
So that sounds like a grassroots thing that you as a parent can take on, but we as a school committee cannot take that on because it's out of our hands to be able to do that. Julie, any other questions or follow-ups?
I have one more follow-up. So if a child has a medical reason why they couldn't wear a mask, we do allow exceptions for that.
They would have to come in and meet with the principal and bring in medical documentation and have a conversation with the principal and the building nurse, with the parent, and then that determination would be made.
And then just, again, I want to follow something up too. As far as like the October 1st, I know it's just happened, but like, at this time, as far as we know, what happens after that, it's kind of going to be in our hands if they...
After what?
After October 1st. It's
So-
up to the schools at that point?
So a lot's happened in the past month, if we follow the timeline. On June 19th, the guidance came out that schools were opening, we weren't going to wear masks. That was June 19th. On July 30th, the guidance came out, about 3.5 weeks ago, the guidance came out that stated that it was strongly recommended that kids wear masks. On 2 weeks after that, on August 13th, the close contact guides came out, which basically made it advantageous to not have to quarantine if you wore a mask. And then today, DESE mandated that everyone wore masks. So we've seen in 2 months a radical shift, and in 3.5 weeks, we've seen a shift. What we're hearing right now out of DESE, and it could very well change, is that as of October 1, if 80% of the population is vaccinated, then masks will be optional if you can reach 80% vaccination between students and faculty. That's all we've heard. They haven't given us any type of indication as to what grade levels, what that looks like, how we collect the data, when we collect the data, is it partially vaccinated, is it fully vaccinated? We haven't received anything like that. What's coming out of DESE from what they gathering, working with their medical team, the governor's medical team, and the Department of Public Health, is that the Delta variant is supposed to crest in about 2 to 3 weeks and then begin to decline, which is why they set that October 1 date. We've seen it happen last year over and over and over again. We've seen it happen the past 3 weeks. I don't know what's going to happen on October 1. Right now, we have the guidance to open school. We're going to get kids back in, and then in another week or two, I'm sure we'll get some more advisories from the Department of Education and the Mass Board of Health to guide us as to what happens we get closer to October 1. My gut says it's probably going to change because it has in the past 3.5 weeks.
That's it. I appreciate people that speak up and share opinions, and I'm here as a school committee member to do exactly what was just suggested, that we're here to, not suggested, but told, we're here to represent students and do what we think is right for students, and sometimes we can't always do what we want to do at this point, but I think that you guys, if you can organize or do whatever you can do, I support that, and, you know, you don't fall on deaf ears.
No, we do hear you. We do see your emails when you do send them in. I do try to reach back out to each one of you when you do send me an email. So we do hear you. We do take into account what the community is looking for. So we do hear you.
interested in a Zoom meeting that you had last week, because my son was actually at my house when he was listening to it, and it sounded like the majority of parents on that Zoom meeting were opposed to the mask mandate. I actually am disappointed to see so few represented here willing to speak up and say that they're opposed to it, but the vast majority in that call were opposed to the mask mandate. So I would just encourage parents to start that petition. If every parent refused to have their child wear a mask and they all walked in without a mask, what are you going to do? Send them all home? I think it needs to be a grassroots effort on the part of the parents to do what is right by their children. And take courage and take heart to do what's right for the children. Don't just follow these mandates that are being imposed upon you, knowing full well that they're not beneficial to the children. And that should be our main concern. That's why I said that you remiss if I didn't stand up for my grandkids.
Thank you. Any other public?
Can people come to the mic just for the
Yeah, can
people
you
at
come to
home?
the mic, please? Just because we have people, and state your name again and address.
Jennifer Butler, 25 Skyview Lane in Webster. Are you guys offering a remote option?
Remote option is not allowed by the Department of Education for the school year. It's full in-person.
So it kind of feels like coercion to make them wear the masks and get vaccinated. The emails and the things that are being sent, that's all that it feels like. So, I mean, there was a remote option last year.
Correct.
And there were plenty of people that opted to not send their kids back even after when they wore the masks. So maybe that's another thing. If you guys don't want to fight for the kids to not wear masks, at least fight for a remote option. Otherwise, like, I don't want to homeschool my kids. I love them. That is a lot of time with them. I have a 9, 5, 1-year-old. That's a lot. I'll take it on, but like the fact that they didn't even offer a remote option is kind of rotten. And they said that that's not allowed. Why?
Because they want kids in school full-time in person.
It's a good reason.
Thank you. Anybody else for public comment before I close it? Okay, thank you. Moving on to, do we have any old business that we need to discuss?
We do not.
Moving to the new business, Dr. Vera, your superintendent's report, please.
So we're going to move my presentation from safety protocols and mitigation plan to this part. But before I do that, I just want to thank the people who spoke today, who came to the public meeting that we had a few weeks ago, but also emailed me and called me. This is such a polarizing topic.
Can I, a point of clarification or information or
Yeah.
something like that? It's very hard to hear you, and I'm not.
I'll yell.
It's so hard. I can't hear
All
anything you're
right,
saying.
so it's such a polarizing topic that I heard from a lot of parents that spoke a lot like the people did here today, but we also heard from a lot of families who said we're in support of masks. So we're in a tough position that regardless of which way we go, we know we're going to have a population of people who are happy and a population of people who are dissatisfied. But I just wanted to say I thank the people who came out and spoke. I know it's not easy. I feel your passion. A lot of the passion came out in emails, but I also want to thank the people who spoke, who did it in a polite and respectful manner too, so I thoroughly appreciate that. With that said, I'm going to go over my mitigation strategies and plan for how we plan to keep students and staff safe in school for the school year. So the goal has been, and will continue to be, to have students, faculty, and staff safely return and remain in school for in-person instruction. We want people here in person for instruction throughout the course of the school year. I said this last year 100 times, I'll say it again, information changes daily, and we'll have to adapt, pivot, and change as we get that information. We've seen it happen 3 times in 3.5 weeks. I'm sure it will happen again. So just keep that in mind when I've been flooded with a few emails today asking questions, and things have just come across our desk in the past 2-3 days that we're still starting to process. So again, information changes on a rapid basis. One thing we tried to do in putting together this plan and thinking about our return to school was striking that balance between a high-level education for our kids, having school look like it looked pre-COVID, with small group instruction, with carpet time for kids, with cooperative learning activities, with lab assignments, with kids in robotic labs. Having schools look like it did prior to COVID, to have that high-level instruction that we used to, but also maintain the health and safety for everyone in our school system. So what follows are some of the things we're doing and we have in place for this school year. First is busing. All students, per the mandate, are required to wear masks on the bus. There will be no seating limits on bus like there were last year. You could put 2 to a seat or 3 to a seat. Windows will remain open for airflow and exchanges on the buses, and students will have assigned seats on the bus just in case we need them. But that's what we're doing for busing for this year. I've already talked to Mrs. Keegan. We've already reached out to Telstone, so they are aware of this. In terms of in school, students will have assigned seats in classrooms and in the cafeteria. This is going to allow for us to do some contact tracing in case we have someone who's positive. So kids will have assigned seats in classrooms, and to the extent possible, teachers will keep track of small groups, carpet time, lab partners. So again, we want kids to be involved in regular activities, and teachers will keep track of those small groups and that carpet time in case, again, we need to look for contact tracing. The nurse's office, and I think this is regardless if we're wearing masks or not wearing masks, masks are required at all times for anyone in the nurse's office, and we'll continue with our isolation room for overflow if needed. Desi said we no longer needed to have that isolation room, that second room for overflow. We're going to keep it just in case this year. In case we have too many kids in the nurse's office, we have that second space to bring kids into. Social distancing. When feasible, we will strive to maintain 3 feet of social distancing. In the guidance that we received, there are no social distancing requirements put forth to schools this year. They've asked when feasible to try to maintain 3 feet, and that's what we're going to do. In many of our classrooms, we have the ability to do that. In some, we don't. But to the extent possible, we're going to try to maintain 3 feet of distancing in all of our classrooms, in our spaces. Makeup work, again, with no remote option. If a student has to quarantine as a result of being COVID positive or not participating in the test and stay program, which I'll bring up shortly, work will be sent home for them to complete as was done pre-COVID. The format of this is going to vary from grade to grade and school to school. So if you think back to pre-COVID, your child had a stomach bug, was out for 3 days, we sent work home. Your child had the flu, they were out for 5 days, we sent work home. That's the format we have in place now. I've met with the leadership team. I'm hoping to meet with the DTA this week to discuss a plan for what happens if we have to shut down for an extended period of time, whether it's a classroom, a grade, or an entire school. I want to have that plan in place if that ever happens. Testing program, we applied and we were granted admission into the testing program. This is free to everyone, so it's a 3-prong effect, 3 prongs. First one is symptomatic testing. If you are in school and you become symptomatic, you can come down to the nurse's office and take a rapid test, and in 15 minutes be diagnosed as to whether or not you're positive or not. If you're not, we'll send you back. If you're positive, you'll have to go home. So if a kid or an adult is not feeling well in school, you'll have the ability to come to the nurse's office and get tested. Second thing is test and stay, which we'll get into a little bit more when we talk about quarantining. But this is a program that's been put in place by the Department of Education to allow for students who are identified as close contacts to not have to quarantine, to be able to continue in school if they were identified as a close contact. And then finally, we're going to continue with our routine pool testing. Anyone who wants to get tested once a week has the ability, staff or students, to be tested once a week. So that was out, we applied for it. We still haven't heard back as to when this will be rolled out, but we've been accepted into the program and there's no charge to the district for it. We've also signed up for an on-site vaccination clinic for kids and for staff. If we have enough spots, we might be able to open up to the community. That's going to be on September 17th from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. here at the high school. So we have a vaccination clinic for people. Fogging. We're going to continue fogging on a regular basis. Our custodians did that last year. They're going to go into classrooms and spaces and continue to fog. And throughout the day, we're going to clean and disinfect our high-touch areas, our doorknobs, our bathrooms, to make sure that it is safe and sanitary and clean for kids and adults. Lunches, we're going to continue to have assigned seats in lunches. We're going to maintain that 3 feet of social distancing in the cafeteria when feasible. Depending on what school you're at, it's going to look different, but we're going to strive to maintain that 3 feet of social distancing, and again, make sure that kids have assigned seats. So if we do have to contact trace, we know where they were sitting and who was sitting next to them. Additional safety measures, we're going to continue to encourage people to wash their hands. Regardless of the pandemic, it's always important to wash your hands. We're going to continue to encourage people, if you're symptomatic, to stay home. If you're living with someone who's symptomatic, to please stay home. And finally, we're going to continue with our abundance of caution approach, which is we're going to monitor the situation and we're going to make sure that kids and staff are safe in schools. I hope people can read that. I don't need my glasses to read my fine print. But they've changed a lot of the guidance around close contact and quarantining. So the first thing is, and the woman in the back brought it up, there is no remote option for kids this year. DESE wants kids in school for full in-person instruction. So last year, especially in grades K to 8, if you were identified as a close contact, you could just dial into your classrooms. That's not an option this year. So if you're identified as a close contact, individuals who are fully asymptomatic and fully vaccinated are exempt from testing and quarantine protocols. So if you're identified as a close contact, as an adult or a child, if you're fully vaccinated, you don't have to worry about testing, you don't have to worry about quarantining, provided you're asymptomatic. Classroom close contacts, an individual who's exposed to a COVID-19 positive individual in the classroom. While both individuals are masked, as long as the individuals are spaced at least 3 feet apart, is also exempt from testing and quarantining. So if you wear a mask, which now everyone is, if you're identified as a close contact, as long as you're more than 3 feet apart, you will not have to quarantine. Bus close contacts are exempt, so we won't have any close contacts on buses. And then finally, if you've had COVID-19 within the past 90 days and you're asymptomatic, you will also not have to quarantine. So that's some of the guidance on quarantining. If you're identified and you don't meet one of those requirements, what we're going to have people do is opt into the test and stay program. So you're identified as a close contact and you now have to enroll in this program for 7 days. Here's what has to be done. 1, the individual has to be completely asymptomatic. 2, they have to wear masks in school. And 3, every day when they enter the school, they'll go to the nurse's office and take a rapid test. That test is 15 minutes. If they test negative, they can continue to stay in school. If they test positive, they have to go home. So this is what DESE's put in place for us with their medical team to keep kids in school. So if you're a close contact and you don't fit the criteria of being masked closer than 3 feet, or further than 3 feet, or vaccinated, you can stay in school if you're asymptomatic, wear a mask, which everyone has to now, and do the test and stay, which is the test in the nurse's office to start the day off. If for whatever reason, you choose not to do the test and stay, or you choose not to take a COVID test, then you'll have to stay at home for 10 days and return on your 11th day of school. So you would miss 2 weeks of school if you don't enroll in the test and stay, or you don't take a COVID test. So those are a lot of the safety protocols we have in place. Just want to go through some of the data that we've been looking at over the past 5-6 weeks. And what I looked at is percent positivity here. I looked at early October of last year, early November of last year,
and then early December of last year. And we can see both at the state and locally, it was relatively low in early October and early November. Then mid-November, right around Thanksgiving into early December, we saw that spike where it close to tripled our positivity rating. We've been tracking the numbers for the past 6 or 7 weeks, and we can see the slow progression upwards. It's almost doubled in the Commonwealth, and it's tripled here in Douglas, a percentage of individuals who are COVID positive. I don't know the breakdown as to the age group of these people. I didn't track it to that level of detail, but this is our percent positivity. In terms of total cases, again, we can look at early October, we had 2, early November, 9, and then in early December, we spiked up to 31. Tracking the data going back to mid to end of July, on the 22nd, it was not available, which probably meant there was 0. And then it's slowly gone from 5 to 7 to 9 to 16. So in 6 weeks, again, we've tripled our numbers of positive cases here in Douglas. Again, I don't know the age group of these people, but we can see just the numbers trending upwards. So earlier today, as we know, the Board of Education approved Commissioner Riley's request to mandate for masks for all public K-12 students, educators, and staff through October 1 to ensure schools fully reopen safely and to provide time for students and educators to get vaccinated. I know some people might say, why aren't we pushing not to wear masks? We're 3 days away from opening schools. We've now had to communicate this information. Our principals have had to do a lot of footwork over the past 2 weeks to get schools ready to open based off of a lot of these changing guidelines, based off of a lot of factors. When we're talking a little bit about enrollment, we're up over 140 kids from last year. So we've had, the principals can speak to this, we've had a lot of people coming and enrolling in our schools, which is awesome, which means a lot of tours and a lot of things. So I get that people might want to say, why aren't we pushing to not wear masks? Right now, we want to open our doors and get kids in school. That's an avenue we choose to pursue. We can look at that afterwards, but right now, we need to get kids and our teachers back in school. Therefore, for the health and safety of everyone in the Douglas Public Schools, all students pre-K to 12, and I want to emphasize, I know that the guidance said K to 12. Last year, we did pre-K to 12, and we're going to continue doing pre-K to 12. So all students pre-K to 12, staff and visitors, regardless of vaccination status, must wear masks indoors. Outdoors, you do not have to wear masks, and this will go into effect tomorrow, August 25th. So starting tomorrow, when we come to school, when people come in, we're going to ask that they wear masks here.
There's a typo there, 2022.
A pretty help.
Want
Oh, it's 2020, it was supposed to be 21, sorry.
I know people would like to put it out there, but you mean tomorrow.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So some additional information, we're going to continue with mask breaks here in schools, and principals have been working on it. It's going to look a little bit different than it did last year. We want to try to maximize time inside the classrooms. I'll use an example here at the high school. A lot of times what happened was you'd have a class come from the second floor, down, walk 4 minutes down to the cafeteria, take their masks off for 5 minutes, walk back upstairs. You lost 10, 12 minutes of instructional time. So what Mr. Romano and Mr. Vega are looking at is, in classes where there are 8 to 10 to 12 kids, where you can space them out 3 feet apart, open a window, and when kids are doing a worksheet, reading a passage, taking a quiz, doing an assignment at their desks, slide the mask down, do the assignment, and after 3 minutes, slide the mask back up. That way we can maximize our time inside of classrooms to stop mitigating some of those learning gaps, as opposed to having kids come down to the cafeteria and miss 15 minutes of time. And again, we're going to continue to monitor, as we did all last year, on a weekly basis, the situation, and make adjustments as needed. We closed a few times, we shut schools down, we shut grade levels down. We did what was needed to make sure that kids and adults were safe here in schools. We also, on the other side of the continuum, we were one of the first schools to bring back our K-6 kids earlier, and we were one of the first schools to bring back our middle school and high school kids earlier. So again, we're looking at it from both ends. We want to make sure the kids are safe, and in school, and our adults and teachers are safe and in school, but we also want to make sure that kids are getting the education and the high-level caliber instruction that they're entitled to and they deserve. So we're more than happy to open it up to questions from the school committee. I know there's a lot there. We've been working on it for about 2-3 weeks now, so happy to answer questions. Ms. Mulder.
I don't want to call her the woman in the back because you only said your name 2 times, and I cannot recall
Her name is
your name
Mrs.
again.
Mrs. Butler.
Mrs. Butler. I can't stop thinking about the things that were said, and so this is kind of a question, and it's kind of going into a couple other things that I wanted to talk about, but I know that this isn't an ideal situation, but I can speak having 3 children in the school over the years. The teachers, especially in the younger grades, they really truly love what they do, and they love children, and they know that this isn't easy for kids. So I want you to also know that you do have teachers that went through this last year, and it was hard, and I know some of them probably, it wasn't ideal. They didn't want masks on children. So just know that you are going to be in good hands regardless of what your decision is, whether you school choice your kid in or if you keep your kid home. And maybe this is a temporary thing, maybe it isn't, maybe it's not going to work out for your child, but just knowing the kindergarten and many of those teachers, it's not easy, but I know they want the kids in the classroom and they will do whatever it takes to get them in the classroom. I guarantee you that. And I will never do Zoom again if I will fight for that tooth and nail. All right, so that said, 2 questions is, why do we have to do pre-K? Who made that decision? And 2, as far as sports, so we never did indoor sports, and I noticed they're all wearing masks in there. We didn't do indoor sports from what I remember in the summertime because with masks on, because I think volleyball was put off. I don't know what other, what?
It was moved to the winter.
Yeah, so I don't know any other sports that were going on in the summerish time. So I'm very nervous about having sports being played with hot weather. So are we sure that every single air conditioning system in the school is fully operating, it's good to go? I'm nervous with kids playing sports in masks.
So I'll answer both
I'm not gonna
questions.
lie, that scares me.
Last year, we did pre-K. Instead of doing K to 12, we did pre-K to 12 to include the entire primary school, so we're not dividing the school in a third. Same reason that if you look at the middle school, when we started talking about masks, 6th graders don't have the opportunity to be vaccinated, or if you're an old 6th grader, you might. With 7th and 8th grade, do have the opportunity to be vaccinated. If we were going to decide what we were going to do, we were probably going to mask the entire school to not have to divide up a school and say, first floor kids don't have to wear masks, 2nd and 3rd floor, kid from the 3rd floor goes to the 1st floor. We were trying to avoid that. So we're trying to do the same exact thing in pre-K. In terms of, is every single solitary air conditioning unit working in the school? I don't know if I can answer that with certainty. I can ask Mr. Collette. Do you know the answer?
I mean, we have, certainly things can happen with HVAC systems. We have one of the best vendors you could ever have, and I'm always complimenting them. When we contact them, they come right out. They're a great company. They provide wonderful service. They do an excellent job. So to the extent possible, everything works the way it's supposed to, on a regular basis. Obviously, if something does happen, like I said, they come down here immediately. It is amazing the response time that we get from them. So I'm glad we have an excellent vendor.
And we're not have to go through like wiping down balls and stuff like that this year. Do you know, as far as the MIA goes, like are there strict rules?
They have
or is
put
it
no-
just masking right now?
As Desi said, and MIA has said, the only restrictions right now is to wear a mask. They want schools to look as they looked pre-COVID, which is the good instruction, kids in hallways, kids in small groups, kids in the carpets, kids doing labs. They want schools to look how we did pre-COVID with the safety precaution of people wearing masks. That could change, but that's where it's at right now.
Okay.
Good.
I've got a handful,
Okay.
always. When we were talking about trying to maintain 3 feet, but we also talked about having the kids have rug time at the younger ages, I'm wondering, and I see Mrs. Sosha's out there. Yep. No, I don't see her. No, I'm wondering if the kids will be able to have rug time and still be 3 feet apart, And also, what's the status on the younger kids sharing materials? I know that that was a challenge, at least at pre-K, kindergarten, when part of the typical curriculum is getting hands-on with stuff. Are we going to be able to
So
share?
sharing things we're going to be able to do again. There aren't any restriction on that. Custodians will fog the rooms on a regular base, on a daily basis, so those will be cleaned. In terms of rug time, I think we talked about spacing instead of having all the kids bunched out, trying to space them out.
Okay, so, but they'll be able to have circle time?
Yeah.
She's nodding yes.
Okay.
Okay. All right, so then the fogging brings me to my next question. Are we continuing to receive financial aid for the additional custodial materials and time, or is that already budgeted?
We have our ESSA 3 grant that we're going to work on tomorrow, I believe. We have our ESSA 3 grant, which is a substantive portion of money, which will help pay for anything we need for that.
Okay. And then I know at one point last year, we had kids wearing masks in the classroom, but when they were outside for recess, they did not.
Correct. So the mandate is just inside, outdoors, coming to and from your cars, at recess, outdoor gym, no masks outside.
Do we know about music?
So music, we do know about music. Music outside, no masks. Inside, with masks. Try to maintain between 3 and 6 feet apart, and trying to go all in one direction is the guidance that came out from the Massachusetts Music Association.
Okay. Rapid testing.
Okay.
Students administering for themselves, or are the nurses administering the test?
I believe the rapid testing the nurses are going to do, but I'd rather ask them for certain.
Okay.
I know when we did the pool testing, it was self-administered,
Right.
especially for the, in the elementary, middle, and high school.
Yeah.
I can't say for certain if the rapid testing, if the nurses are going to do it or the kids are going to do it.
Are parents going to need to give permission for that sort of rapid testing? Or
So,
can parents, say my kid becomes symptomatic, but I don't want somebody sticking a thing up their nose,
okay.
can I opt to have them just sent home instead?
You can. So if your daughter's in the 5th grade, comes down, says, I don't feel good.
Yeah.
Nurse will call you up and say, daughter has these 4 or 5 symptoms, we can give a test. You say, no, I'm gonna come pick them up. Then you pick them up and we follow the protocol you have for a symptomatic child at home.
Okay. I think my last one. Do we have a plan in place if there's a significant number of close contacts that still want to come into school and do the rapid test in the morning, hoping that they're continuously negative? Do we have the staffing to be able to support?
So one piece of the grant that we had to check off was, do we want additional bodies provided by DESE to come in and help our nurses off? And we checked off, yes, we do want additional support for our nurses. So I reached out to Lauren Wu from the Department of Education 2 days ago. They're still in the process of accepting people. They haven't issued any guidance as to when this is going to start, what it's going to look like, when they're rolling it out. But one of the things we did check out is we do want supports from other people to help come into the schools to help our nurses out. Because if we do, with each test taking 15 minutes and having to time the kids, if you have 15 kids down there, it's really difficult for
Right.
one person
Right.
to time 15 people.
Right.
So I know the principals have helped out. I know the adjustment counselors have time and helped out. I know we have, a nurse that sometimes goes in between 2 buildings. They've helped out, but we've also asked for additional supports and resources from the department to assist us.
That's it for me. Thank you.
Anything, Lisa? Good. The only question I had was the vaccine clinic. So said it's going to be at the high school. So what are we going to do for the middle school kids because they're eligible? Are we going to walk them up, bus them up?
We're going to do the same thing we did last year. We're going to walk them up.
Okay.
Mr. Romano will go down with Mr. Vega, or Mr. Vega will go down, and then we'll walk them over here, do what we need to do, and then walk them back, just what we did last year.
And it'll be a permission slip from the
The
parents.
permission
correct?
slip from the parents, absolutely.
That's all I had. Anybody else, any seconds? Thank you so much.
You're welcome. All right, for my start of the school update, I just really want to start off by saying thank you to a lot of people for all their efforts in getting us ready to start the 21-22 school year. We'll start off with Ms. Keegan and her staff. Closed out 3 fiscal years, working on 3 different budgets, getting things up and running, making sure that, again, managing some grants that we typically don't have, but making sure that principals and teachers have the resources inside their classrooms to be ready to start the school year. She's done a fantastic job with that. Our special education team has been great. They've been meeting with us on a regular basis. They've been out talking to teachers. I'm really happy with what we've been doing there and confident we're going to start the year off up and running. Our principals, deans, Cindy, John, Matt, Bob, Josh, and Desi have done a great job. A typical summer's busy. Last summer was insane. This summer, July was pretty good, and then on the 30th, once they started talking about defining what strongly encouraged meant, worlds changed, and we had to rethink a lot of what we were doing for the start of the school year, so just a big thank you to them. Our nurses have been incredible, especially, again, since the 30th. They've called me, we've reached out, we've Zoomed, they've offered some guidance, they've offered some medical interpretation to me, so I'm really thankful for them. All of our support staff in the offices, checking our orders, collecting orders, getting books ready, getting handbooks ready, doing all that behind-the-scenes work, so when teachers and kids come back, things are flawless and seamless. And we all know how important it is to have that flawless, seamless start to the school year. So thank you to them. Our tech department has been great as well. So Mr. Calabrese and his staff going around the high school, untangling all the wires in the classrooms, putting them together so they look nice. Again, it's those small little details that matter. We had close to 200 new Chromebooks come in. We're imaging those to get those out to kids. We're redoing a lab here at the high school. So just a lot of stuff going on in the tech department. We all know, we learned this last year, how frustrating it is when you go to hit on and the computer doesn't turn on. So thank you to them. Our food services has been fantastic, doing a lot of stuff. Our principals looked at the menu and were really excited about some of the food options for the start of the school year. And those are typically out words you hear, school lunch and excited to eat, so that's encouraging to me. In our facilities department, our men and women in that department have done such a fantastic job getting the schools ready. You know, if you remember the end of last year, we had furniture all over the place. They had to put all that, not only the typical cleaning, but then they had to put all the furniture back where it belonged. And then we had to pivot and adapt again once we got the guidance on the 30th. The grounds have been really difficult because of all the rain we had in July, so that typical things you do in the month of July, you really couldn't do a lot of times because the grass was wet or it was raining out, so a big thank you to them. You know, I've said it before, it takes a village to get us up and running to start the school year off, and there are a host of people, so I just wanted to say thank you to all of them. I believe at our probably September 15th meeting, I'll have the principals come up and give a full report as to how the first 2 weeks have gone, but right now we are in a good position to open up in September, so just wanted to share that with the committee and the community. Questions on the start of our school year? I think bus lists come out Thursday, so another piece.
I'm hoping to get it even tomorrow.
Hoping even tomorrow.
Actually, in regards to the busing, I know the question has come up to me. People who weren't being bused, and now if they choose to be bused, they just go out like they normally would, or do we have to let somebody know that they're now taking the bus?
Yeah, that's a good question. I know, it's been so confusing, but basically we're going back to, you know, pre-COVID. So what we're doing is we're doing the same thing we did before, where each school provides a listing of all the students, and, you know, whoever's eligible for transportation, she puts on that list, because if you're eligible for transportation, you're eligible for it, doesn't mean you must take it. I mean, you might decide to drive your child to school for whatever reason, but that child will be on the list. And then, of course, they have to adjust some stuff, because that was 2 years ago. So, because some, obviously, the, you know, the fifth graders will be going up to the DMS DHS route, and things change because you're talking about older students, younger students. If you have a K student, say you're on a road and you have several families, because you can't keep starting and stopping a bus because it's dangerous, so you have to have a spacing out of bus stops, but we'll generally change the stop to where the kindergarten child is, because that's a young child. So there are some adjustments made, but that's so we don't expect any issues, you know, just the regular listing. A few people did contact me just to see if their stop was on there, and I did look, you know, because I do have the primary and elementary list already, and yes, I said, oh, good, the stop is right there, so it kind of had a little bit of testing out too, which was good, so expecting everything to roll right along, and we're very happy. It's just going to be like the regular regular bus routes, so assigned seats, but, regular as far as the routing and the stops. But thank you for asking.
And then I have another question too about Chromebooks and other resources that families have had over the summer. Are those returning day one with the students?
They should be returning day one with the students. Are we going to repurpose them? Or if a kid had Chromebook 5 in the summer, are they going to continue with the same Chromebook for the school year?
No, actually, I think they turn them in.
Okay.
Most of them. Those who accept them, they'll probably, they'll keep it assigned to them.
Okay.
If they need to be fixed, obviously, they can come back and we can replace.
And so, and you're keeping track of whose you don't have yet? Okay.
Yeah, we have an inventory system that we can track.
Okay.
Next on my report is BVXL. I think I mentioned it before. Really excited about. We received a $450,000 grant, the consortium, which is area schools, and what this does is it allows for 2 Douglas students per semester to enroll in courses after school. These include welding, manufacturing, cybersecurity. So for our population of kids who may not want to go to BVT but still want experience in some of the vocational fields, this gives them the opportunity to do it. In addition to taking these classes after school, there's job shadowing opportunities that we're going to be provided to the kids. There's internships that'll be provided to them, and there are field trips to be provided. So we've reached out to our high school kids to see who's interested in taking these classes, but this is a grant for the year, and we're really excited to be able to bring a different opportunity to some of our high school kids. So,
Did you say 2 kids?
2 kids per course, correct,
Per semester.
Okay.
per semester. Again, there's about, I think, 8 schools in this consortium, so 8 times 2 is 16. When you're working welding and manufacturing, you really want to keep those class sizes somewhat small, so it is limited to 2 per school. Last year, we had a lot of schools who could only fill 1 slot or 0 slots, so we had access to a couple extra slots here in Douglas. I think for one of them, we had 3 kids do it, so there might be some play if some other schools don't fill all their slots, but right now it is 2 slots. Next is our AP scores. They came in. We'll do a full report with MCAS in a couple of weeks, but I was really concerned when the numbers were coming up just to see what was going to happen. If you think about those AP classes, you have kids who are in school 5 days a week, going 100 miles an hour taking these AP classes, staying after school. We had the hybrid model. We had kids doing it remote. I was really concerned about where our numbers would be. Josh sent me something. Typically, we have between 55 and 60% of our kids score a 3 on the AP tests. This year, we had 50% of the kids. So between a 5 and 10% decrease. I was expecting a lot worse. So Josh will give a full report on that, probably the 15th or the first meeting in October, once we have more MCAS data. But we really didn't see the significant dip that I thought we were going to see in AP scores. And the last thing is enrollment, and just wanted to touch upon this. This is the first time in over a decade that we've seen an increase in enrollment from one year to the next. Every year for the past 10 years, we've slowly seen a decrease. This year, we're up about 141 kids, coming from a variety of places. A lot of it's coming from people moving into the community. I think that's a testament to who we are and the community that we have, that people are coming into our community. I said this last year a lot. We handled COVID wonderfully last year, and a lot of people didn't handle it as great as we did. And I think the word's out about the great things we're doing, and just to see that influx of 141 extra kids, new kids to the district, is really exciting. I know we talked about when we approved school choice, what's this going to do to class sizes, and in our September 15th meeting, I'll do a report on class sizes and probably close school choice. I know some of our elementary school numbers are starting to get right there at 26, 27, so we'll look at that, but we have people moving in, and that's awesome and exciting for us as a school and as a community. So I want to share a little bit of good news today with everyone, or at least I think it's good news that people are excited to come to our school system. That's my report for the evening. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so we're going to move on to the school committees and subcommittee report, the account payable. Becky? Or is it Julie?
It's Julie, but
Julie,
I can do
sorry.
it if you want me to this time.
What did you say? I'm sorry, I was reading.
We're at the accounts payable report.
I think I signed most of these ones, so I can do it this time. But yeah,
I'm sorry.
this will be your jam going forward, Julie.
I might have done it, one of them, but you can.
I got it. All right. So I signed warrant 56, school year 21, dated 6/30/2021, which was 4 batches totaling $3,834.68. I signed warrant for school year 22, dated 7/22/21, which was 2 batches totaling $43,534.19. I signed warrant 57, school year 21, dated 6/30/2021, which was 2 batches totaling $22,931.77. I signed warrant 6, school year 22, dated 8/5/21, which was 5 batches totaling $29,070. And I signed warrant 6, school lunch 22, dated 8/6/21, which was 1 batch totaling $168.66. And Ms. Mulder signed warrant 7, school year 22, dated 8/12/2021, which was 3 batches totaling $37,819.90. I didn't see anything unusual. I don't know if Ms. Mulder did on hers. No, I wouldn't have signed it. Nothing.
Thank you so much, Becky and Julie. All right, on to the consent agenda. If we could review the June 16th, 2021 meeting minutes. Be looking for a motion?
Make a motion to approve the June 16th, 2021 school committee meeting minutes.
Motion made by Lisa Brown, second.
Second.
Second by Becky. We can say aye. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Okay. Next one is the June 29th, 2021 meeting minutes. I'll be looking for a motion on these minutes.
Make a motion to approve the school committee meeting minutes for June 29th, 2021.
Motion made by Lisa, and second?
Second.
Second by Becky. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, the next one is the FY22 Witten Community Center agreement. Do we need to do a, Dr. Vera, do we need to just reread it again or go right to the motion?
Does anyone have any questions? Basically, this is the before and after school program that is held at the primary school.
This is the same.
And we
as-
approve this each year.
We did.
Right.
Yes.
Yes.
Mhm.
But we did it on Zoom.
Yeah.
All right. I don't have any new questions.
I move to approve the Witten Community Center license fee of $6,500 for the 2021-22 school year for use of Douglas Primary School for the before and after school care program.
Motion made by Julie. All those?
Second.
Second by Becky. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Let's oppose on that one. The next one is the FY22 physicians contract.
Yes, this is something that's also, it's actually required by law to appoint a physician each year. And Dr. Elizabeth Sirocco has agreed to do it again the upcoming school year, and that's pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 71, Section 53. Just requires school committee approval to appoint the physician.
Okay, I'd be looking for a Motion?
I move to approve Dr. Elizabeth T. Sirocco as the school physician for FY 2022 pursuant to Chapter 71, Section 53.
Motion made by Monique,
Second.
second by Lisa. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, next is are we going to do the 2021-2022 school choice vote by grade? That's the updated one, Dr. Vera?
For now, yes, please.
And
Any
this
questions?
hasn't changed since the last
No.
time?
No.
Okay. And just remind me again, so we'll be discussing in September?
At the September 15th, our next meeting's a week from tomorrow.
Yes.
So at our September 15th meeting, once the dust is settled for the first week of school, we'll make the recommendation as to what grades we're closing and what grades we're keeping open.
Okay. Since this was based on numbers of students enrolled at the time, so the principals had provided you with students and their recommendations. My concern is with the wording for this, like, I was comfortable with approving, let's say, 10 to 12 students for grade 1 at that time. Let's say between the last meeting that we discussed this and today, there have been 8 more students that have enrolled in grade 1. I don't want us to word this so that we're approving an additional 10 to 12 students on top of do you understand what I'm saying?
I do understand. So we're approving, for grade 1, we're approving 10 to 12 school choice kids. I know we have 3 of the 4 principals here. Any changes we need to make in terms of your numbers for school choice?
Or is it possible that we can just say,
We move it to.
like retroactive to the data provided by the principals?
We can do that.
Something like that. Okay. Okay. I don't have any other questions.
Anyone else got questions?
All right. So I move to approve the recommendations made by the Douglas Public School building administrators at the time that they were made for each grade level for the school choice cap.
Motion made by Becky.
Second.
Second by Lisa. All those in favor? Aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, thank you. The reaffirm of the Douglas Middle School and Douglas High School student activity funds accounts. Each year, we have to close those out by June 30th, 2021.
No, no, this isn't a closeout. This is just, we have to reaffirm, based on Mass General Law, the accounts that they have open in each of the schools that we're carrying forward. And I did provide an Excel sheet for each one of the buildings, and just letting you know that we did close out the elementary school student activity fund. So I didn't know if anybody had any questions regarding the listing or anything?
I'll be looking for a motion if no one has any questions.
I move to affirm the student activity accounts for the Douglas Middle School and Douglas High School student activity funds per the attached fiscal year 2022 student activity accounts listing. The elementary school student activity fund closed as of June 30th, 2021.
Okay. Second. Motion made by Becky, second by Monique. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
We're going to move the Good Friday discussion to the September 15th school committee meeting, and we're going to go to, next is the support staff position at the Douglas Primary School. Good evening. I'm here to talk to you about the support staff at the Douglas Primary School. So essentially, when we had the approved budget for fiscal year '22, DPS was approved for 4 paraprofessional FTEs and 5.5 ABA FTEs. With the IEPs that came in over the summer, they actually need 1 additional paraprofessional FTE and 1 less ABA FTE to be in compliance with student IEPs. So the recommendation is going to be to eliminate by 1 ABA in that building and increase by 1 paraprofessional ABA, 1 paraprofessional FTE. It's enough acronyms.
There's no one in that ABA position that we're proposing to eliminate, so no staff members are going to lose their position as a result of this. This is just to meet student IEP needs and remain in compliance. So the financial impact of this is actually going to result in a savings of approximately $5,000 based on just the ABA and para rate schedules that are in place right now. So if the school committee is in agreement, the recommendation would be to move to approve the elimination of one ABA FTE from the primary school and increase by one paraprofessional FTE at the primary school.
Can I comment?
Excuse me?
Can I comment?
Absolutely.
So I love Mrs. Urquhart. She was awesome. She's going to be missed. But I know that I've heard great things about you, so welcome. But it's very odd to have somebody up here saying that they're going to save us money, and I know she didn't intend to do that. Like, she always had a request for money, so this is an odd request, so I can't wait to say yes.
Okay, I'll take it. Any questions?
Yeah, I have a question.
Sure.
So could you just tell us a very brief version of what supports the ABA versus a para can give? Because I know that we recently had to eliminate paraprofessional positions within the budget.
Yep.
So I'm wondering why an ABA can't. I'm good with saving money too. That's fantastic. But my concern is that if we save this money now, and then we could use an ABA next year or over the course of this year because another student moves in or whatever. So could you just, I don't want us to have to like flip-flop. So could you tell us about that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. And needs of students can change, right? So I look at the paraprofessionals and ABAs as two separate service providers. So the difference between a paraprofessional and the ABA would be that the ABA has training and applied behavioral analysis. So really it's a more restrictive service than a paraprofessional would provide in a classroom. So from a cost saving, it's a good thing, but from a level of restrictiveness, it's also a good thing that we're seeing a shift towards a paraprofessional from an ABA.
Okay.
And that's not to say a month from now, we'll be right back hiring an ABA, because again, it's whatever the children need. and that's
You got
what
it.
We pride ourselves on. We do a really good job of taking care of our kids that need additional support services. So
But we'll take the reduction for today.
absolutely. So, I mean,
It could change.
it could change, and, so
And we will adapt.
we will, that's what we do. So, any other discussion? I'd be looking for a motion from somebody.
I move to approve the elimination of one ABA FTE from DPS and add one paraprofessional FTE to DPS.
Motion made by Becky, looking for a second.
Second?
Second by Lisa. All those in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay. Thank you so
Thank
much,
you.
Tara.
All right, Mrs. Keegan, your Super Bowl.
All right. On to you, Miss Courtney.
Okay. Take a deep breath. All right, so I will try to make this fairly painless, but it is, I do want to take some time going over the year-end stuff, but as far as reclassifications, numbers 1 through 6 that have been provided to you, those are actually right before the year-end ones that we do. I didn't know if anybody had any questions on those. Those are just your typical transfers, some for grants and some from administrators, just your typical reclasses.
Did we get these from Lauren?
Yeah, 1 through 6 were all
Yes, they were-
together from before. Does anyone have any questions on reclassifications numbers 1 through 6? And then I'll get on to the year-end, all of the year-end things that we have on the agenda here. And those were provided before.
Yep. Anyone have any questions? Nope, we're good, Courtney.
So if you just want to do a vote for 1 through, reclassifications, and just number 1 through 6 would be fine.
I'll make a motion to approve FY 2021 year-end reclassifications number 1 through 6, school committee meeting August 24th, 2021.
Motion made by Lisa, looking for a second, please.
Second.
Second by Julie. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Cool. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. So the next one is FY '21, year-end reclassification number 7, and that's school choice to general fund. And you will see that it's a lot of pages, so more than we've ever had. It was an enormous amount of work for me and Jean. I felt bad for Jean. But the reason being, well, last year was a COVID year. As you know, we received grants, there were changes in staffing, like some people getting two-thirds pay because being out with COVID, and the bleacher repairs could not be done in FY '21. We had $40,000 budgeted for that. I actually had to go out to bid twice, and luckily just got a bidder just in time to get them done, and they're going to be worked on very soon, and hopefully will be done right on time. It's just the difficulties that we're still having with COVID. Whether it be trucking or getting supplies, it's just a numerous effects from COVID. So as you'll see, a lot of them are small dollar amounts. So to come up to the dollar amount that was left in the general fund, it just did take that amount. So they've already been soft posted, as Jean calls it. And until we actually confirm them, then we'll actually post them and everything. But everything has been closed out and done, and reconciled and everything with Jean. So, because we do run the report after they're soft posted to make sure everything is exactly as we're expecting with regard to the reclasses and transfers, actually. So does anyone have any question on that? Just our typical year-end stuff, just a lot more of them because of just everything the way it's been. Yeah. So.
If no one has any questions, I'd be looking for a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve the FY 2021 reclassifications number 7. School choice to general fund, school committee meeting, August 24th, 2021.
Motion made by Lisa, second from?
Second.
Second from Becky. All those in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Now, the next one down is the transfers, and that's just basically cleaning up the budget because we cannot leave it, the way it is at the end. We have to zero out everything, so we go through that. That's all that is. And then you'll get to see, because of it, a nice, clean general fund budget report. So that's the year-end budgetary transfers, right after that reclass number 7, and that is 7 pages. Does anyone have any questions with regard to that? That's basically just moving all of the, pluses into all of the minus accounts, and it comes right down to a perfectly clean account.
Be looking for a motion from somebody? If no one has any questions?
Make a motion to approve the FY 2021 year-end budgetary transfers. School committee meeting, August 24th, 2021.
Motion made by Lisa, second from?
Second.
Second from Becky. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Thanks so much.
Okay, so the next thing, thank you. The next thing on the agenda is your general fund budget report. It might actually be after the fund balance report in your packet. But it's the Munis report, and it says FY 2021 year-end general fund budget, fund budget report. Yep, you've got that right there. So, as far as the year-end, our operating budget was $13,793,820. Our expenditures were $13,414,125.56, and we have encumbrances of $379,694.44, and most of that is summer pays. As you know, a lot of staff, they can either get the lump sum at the end of the year, or they can be paid over the summertime. That's an FY21 expenditure. It must be encumbered in the FY21 budget. So you have a clean report there. I don't know if anybody has any questions regarding FY21 general fund. Okay, so the next one down is the year-end balances report. This is all funds for the school department. That is the one entitled FY21 School Department Funds Report as of June 30th, 2021. Okay, so it basically delineates both the operating budget and the transportation of the general fund at the top. And we did have a balance left over in the transportation budget, which was good. Let's see, so the next one down is all of the revolving funds. And starting with school lunch, you'll see that we have a fund balance there in the amount of $63,135.43, which is good. It's a little bit higher. We started off the beginning of the year with a fund balance of only $19,721. If you remember in FY20, we had a good portion of, like 1/4 of the year was COVID, and we had, some issues there. So I did end the year 20, kind of leaving them a little bit of a fund balance, but recall that this particular year, all lunches were free. That was nationwide. That was a USDA decision. So the good thing about having a little bit of a fund balance is we are negotiating the cafeteria contract, which we'll be going over later in executive session. And also that we've gone many, many, many years without being able to buy any equipment at all. So that we may be able to get a few things too as well. So our new food service director is reviewing everything, all of the schools, taking a look at anything. I've asked her to provide a listing of any needs that they may have for going forward. Preschool, we have a balance of $61,000, just over $61,000 there. As far as school lunch and preschool, circuit breaker and school choice, I'll be going over a little bit more details in some other reports I provided you as well on trend analysis, my trend reports. So I don't want to spend too much time on those. School choice, we had a fairly good school choice balance, but again, I'll be getting into more details on that later on. Let's see if there's anything else here. Circuit breaker, we ended with $330,000, just over $330,000. And all the others are very small accounts. We do have a fairly good carryover balance in the Douglas High School athletic program. So that'll help somewhat going forward, because there were some losses associated having to do with COVID. So I'm very happy to see that we at least have some fairly good balances in our accounts, so that we're not starting off the year, worried about getting through the year. And we talked about the FY22 budget. We did look at some projections, but not knowing the exact end. And as you all know, we did look prospectively in making our decisions with regard to use of funds and things of that nature. So I think we're in pretty good stead. The next one down is our FY21 donation accounts. Those are just very small donations that we have for athletic programs and some miscellaneous. And the next page is our prior year grants, and then after that we have our FY21 grants. As you know, we did receive some COVID grants during the year. That did help out, help the district out in dealing with COVID and actually mitigating some expenditures that we normally would have to pay out of our general fund or school choice, but we were able to utilize these grants as far as the remote learning for a lot of technology, a good deal of technology. So that was very much appreciated. So some of them carry over, a lot of them carry over, especially the title grants, they can carry over. And if you see a minus there, we have the due from state, and there's a timing lag with regard to being able to apply for the funds to come in, but there's no concerns there at all. It's a timing issue there. Does anyone have any questions so far? Okay.
I have a question.
Yep.
So I know we've kind of talked about this before. So circuit breaker, I see how the totals with the revolving funds, like the totals are good. But we did a big dip into circuit breaker. Do you?
Oh, I'm going to be going over that afterwards when I get into the, I'm going to go over school lunch, preschool, and then circuit breaker and school choice, because those are our largest ones, and I know there's always questions on that, for good reason. So I'll be very happy to answer that. Any other questions on those two pages? And then the last page, I'm delineating the balances and savings and checking and the total balance for each of the student activity fund accounts. And we closed the elementary one, so there's nothing there, and you just have a balance of $9,379 in the middle school and $59,426.73 for the high school for their student activities. And these are all reconciled. You'll see that Jean and I have signed it off, so we won't sign anything unless it's all reconciled. So we're all set. So, and before I move on to the other reports that we just spoke of, I do want to send out a huge thank you to my staff and to particularly Jean. I mean, it's just, it's really wonderful that we work so great together. I mean, the town staff and the treasurer's office, the accountant's office are just fabulous. We have a relationship like this. It doesn't matter if it's payroll, it doesn't matter if it's payables, it doesn't matter if it's reconciling or doing anything. We work wonderfully together, and, you know, it takes, in order for that to happen, it takes everybody working wonderful together. I don't know how better to say that, but, and also my staff, and particularly, you know, Ellen, my assistant, and Stacy as well, in all the work that goes into closing out purchase orders and everything. It's enormous, thousands of things that you have to do, it literally is. And Ellen spent a lot of time, you know, accommodating Jean, because she's got so much on her plate, and staying after and working with her. So a huge, huge thank you. And I really do appreciate those good relationships, because it just makes the job just so much nicer. So I just wanted to say that. We can move on to the school lunch, preschool, and then the other two as well. Let's see. Should have, I think that should have been right after, let's see where it was put. I think you may have gotten two of the fund balance one, so I think you got two copies of that. Yeah, I think it should be at the end, I believe.
You want school lunch next?
So I'm going to start with school lunch, then preschool, and then move on to school choice and circuit breaker. And let me see my little notes here too. Okay, here. Okay. So with school lunch, I think it's really good for these programs, in particular school lunch and preschool, to see a trend analysis, because it's very important. If you just see 1 year in isolation, you not see a trend. So school lunch, as you can see, we had a carryover balance of just over 19,000. Now there's a big difference, as you'll see, with regard to prior year revenues, and with regard to federal. And the only reason for that is because 99% of our revenue is coming from federal government, because the entire school year was free, okay? So then you'll see big differences. That kind of filters down into the other revenue areas as well. Obviously for students, where in prior years you had hundreds of thousands of dollars in student revenue, and it was only 11,000, and that's for catering or separate items that they purchase, which is outside of your regular lunch or breakfast. So very, very different as far as the categories go. But luckily, you know, it was a little bit less, it definitely was less than the prior few years, you know, for obvious reasons. I mean, the whole COVID situation and everything. So, and then I do want to, if you look down at the expenditures, that has changed a great deal as well, because we did fund out of the general fund, I'm not seeing here, okay. There's a little note there, $59,345.36 for food service expenditures. So if we didn't do that, obviously the picture for the revolving fund would be quite different. But we were allowed to accommodate that in the general fund budget due to a number of other savings as well. And so at least at the end of the fiscal year, you can see, as far as the revolving fund goes, the revenue over expenditures, albeit not the whole picture, because we did cover some expenditures in the general fund, but starting off the revolving fund, well, revenue is over expenditures by 43,000, and the fund balance is 63,000. So as we spoke of before, that'll be very helpful with regard to the upcoming contract, as well as looking district-wide at some equipment needs. And we're not talking about anything big, mind you, because that's not a huge balance to have at all, by any stretch of the imagination. And I want to remind everyone that this upcoming school year, lunches are free as well. So it'll change, the categories will change, so we'll see what happens there. And I know the new food service director is looking at just some various things, maybe some menu changes and things as well, but that'll take a little bit of time for her to just kind of get her feet wet with the start of the school year, and then we'll see what happens with regard to that. Maybe some more catering, and she's also implemented breakfast as well in the schools, a little bit more than what we've had in the past, so that will help with revenue as well.
So can I just ask, clarifying, for this school year, breakfast is also included or not included? So just to make sure everybody is aware that
I believe it's included with the free as well.
So so none of the kids have to come to school hungry for breakfast. They can come in and get a meal.
Yeah, yes, it is. It absolutely is. Yes.
So
yeah, it absolutely is. Yeah, and I know you'll be sending out some information on that, so the parents will be aware of it as well, so that'll be good.
The other plug I'll do for the breakfast program is you don't have to have breakfast as soon as you walk in. One of the things we're doing at the primary and the elementary is there's snack time for kids. So instead of parents having to pack a snack for kids during that snack time, come in, grab your breakfast, and instead of having it right there at 7 o'clock in the morning, you can have it for snack time at 9 o'clock in the morning. So it doesn't mean you have to pick up breakfast and eat it right then, there, at that minute. You can also pick up the breakfast and use it for snack time at whatever time snack time is designated at the primary or the elementary schools.
So I know I'm going to just deviate a little bit, but for open house, it might be helpful if we mention that to the parents that are coming to open house. I think that's just a great way.
It is.
Because kids forget their snack, and normally the teachers are trying to have their little snack cachet of all these snacks for kids, so that's just a thought.
I wanted to do a plug too, because a parent once said to me, and it was the funniest thing, she said her son said that he came home and he told her that he went out to breakfast this morning. Come to find out, that meant that he went into the school and had breakfast at school, and he went out to breakfast.
That's
so if that's what it takes, because I know my kids, they don't eat breakfast in the morning, it drives me crazy, so it's such a wonderful thing to have.
Right, so it's just another avenue for us as a community to make sure nobody comes to school and they're hungry, so, thank you.
It is, and the timing, like you said, Julie, I mean, a lot of kids don't want to eat the minute, they're not even awake yet.
Right.
And they don't want to eat, so being allowed to get on the bus and take some time to wake up and then have it, then they're more likely to have breakfast too. So I think it's really, really great. So thank you. Okay, we'll move on to the preschool. So our carryover balance beginning of the year was just over 91,000. The revenue obviously was down, but we knew that, we were expecting that, and I'm sure everything's going to be resurrected back to where it was, because it was on a great trajectory before COVID, right, Cindy? Right, Mrs. Osha? Yes, it was. It's on a fabulous trajectory, so we're going to get there, right back where we need to be. But as far as expenditures, they've been holding pretty steady, but you can see the revenue obviously did not meet the expenditures. So it's 30,000 in the red as far as revenue over expenditures, but due to the carryover balance as well, again, I tried to set them up, as you'll recall, in the beginning of the year, knowing that we were going into another, difficult year. I tried to set them up as best I could so that we would end the year well, and so we have a fund balance of just over 61,000. So, and everything's accounted for as far as FY '22, as far as between the revolving fund. We also have the 262 grant that funds a little bit in the general fund. So this program is funded by 3 different funds. So that's why it's good to have this sheet to show all of those various funding sources.
Mrs. Sosha, do you happen to know the enrollment for this upcoming year?
We have a waiting list for our 3-year-olds, and
Good.
we're full up on the 4-year-olds. There's been a little fluctuation where, schedules change.
Right.
This week, we were able to accommodate all of the 4-year-olds who are on a waiting list.
Okay.
Awesome.
So
Wow.
we're pretty full.
Great, that's great.
15 to 16 max.
Great. Thank you.
That's fantastic. So we're definitely getting right back to normal. So that's great. Okay, so the next one that I have, we'll go over school choice. I had a number of things I wanted to discuss here. So, as you recall, we were working on the FY 2022 budget. I provided some projections, and now, I always have my caveats, and I'm always prudently conservative, as you know. So on the FY '21, we had originally projected $756,060 in revenue. Now, the revenue is made up of regular tuition receipts, which is just $5,000 for each school choice child. Also, there's a special ed increment, and that just depends on services, so you don't find that out until the end of the year. So we had originally $522,500 for the regular tuition, and $233,660 for the special ed increment. And it actually came into, in the number of students that we originally had was 104.5 FTEs. It ended up at 124.1 FTEs by the time they did the June reconciliation. So that was a difference from 522,500 to 620,400 is what it ended up being as far as the regular tuition. The special ed increment ended up at, so we have an additional 71,298 as far as the tuition goes. 97,900 for the tuition, I'm sorry. The sped increment, an additional 71,298. So the overall additional revenue, as far as final total for FY '21, is an additional $169,198. So that's both in the sped increment and the additional students that we had for 2021. But that being said, I want to remind everyone that, to your point, when we were doing the FY '22 budget, remember, I'm always prudently conservative, but because of the amount that we were getting for the appropriation, and we didn't want to make massive cuts, we did look over a 2-year period. We looked projectively, not only 1 year, we looked over several years. And even though I don't usually do this, I did also provide an estimate for what our carryover was going to be. And I remember telling you I was being very conservative, and I was. So we came in actually well over my amount. So we did greatly increase our use of school choice in the FY '22 budget. But as you can see, all around, because I was prudently conservative in all areas, we came out very well moving forward. But when I would expect that we will be having a budget subcommittee sometime soon, and then I'll come back to the full school committee and go over the FY '22 as well in more detail, as far as just to have a good look at that as far as starting off the year. I'll get into more details there. So actually, our school choice is looking quite well, but I want to remind everyone, though, as well, that as part of our FY '22 budget, we did remove from the budget entirely, we didn't fund it in any way, not even through school choice, $189,537 in textbooks as well. But again, because of the being prudently conservative and all of us being very careful and judicious as far as looking at projections, we're able to accommodate that as well, and they've all ordered their textbooks, so. And those numbers have been looking very well. And we'll have our bleachers fixed, so. Any questions on school choice? And again, I will be providing more information on FY '22 within another month probably or so. Okay, and the last one I have is the circuit breaker. If I can find it, let's see. Here we go. Okay. Hard for me to see. Okay, and I want to look at this here. Okay. So the original projections that we had for circuit breaker for FY '21 was $1,004,644. We came in at $1,081,093, so very close. I'm sorry, $1,076,405. So very close there. And we did budget, and again, I'll go over the FY '22 at another meeting. Actually, we should really do that at another meeting. And as far as, let's see, 21, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yep. So we came in about, we did end up using a little bit more than because we originally budgeted $900,000 in the FY '21 budget, and we approved just under $500,000 additional. So that's 1.4. And it's actually just about right on the money, 1.428. Yep. So that one is pretty well in good stead, and as far as the figures that we took into consideration for FY '22 budget. Because remember, we looked at them together, circuit breaker and school choice, and we did that on purpose. So that pretty much sums it up. So at least I provided it, so you will see, you can at least, look at the trends for those accounts as well, across the board. And those are all actual figures on these ones. There are no projections, they're all actuals, all reconciled. Does anyone have any more questions with regard to either circuit breaker or school choice? For now, anyway. No. And then I will go over the FY '22 in about a month.
Thank you so much,
And
Courtney.
I think that is it. And I hope to have the busing, all of the stops and routes, the stops posted on Thursday at the latest.
Okay, you heard it. Thursday, class routes.
Yeah, okay. I hope so.
Thank you, Courtney.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you.
Any other topics not anticipated? So we're going to take a roll call vote to adjourn for executive session. We will not be coming back. So roll call vote.
Wait, before we do that, I'd like to say thank you also to the people who came out tonight and for sticking through it. It's a long meeting. A lot of it's really dry. It's very respectful, so I'm proud of Douglas residents for being able to be passionate and respectful. There are people in this town who feel very passionately on both sides. Like we have said, we read the emails, we listen to what you're saying, we feel the heartfelt part, and I hope that it's conveyed that none of us would be here if we didn't care about kids. We really wouldn't. So we, I promise, are doing the best that we can too. And thank you so much for doing your part.
Thank you.
I'll just echo the same sentiments. I think we're all here for the kids and the community itself. So it's not been an easy, I would say, last 18 months since COVID hit. It has not been easy. We have not lost sight. We're also taking care of our administrator, our educators, our teachers. It's just been very challenging. So I do thank everybody for reaching out to us, to coming and sitting through this. I think this is the most attendance we've had since COVID, with the community coming back in. So please know that we do hear you, we do listen, and like I said, it's a very passionate conversation on both sides. Anybody else want to add anything?
I would just have, like, we're all parents here too, so, you know, we feel your angst in all of this, and, you know, like Heather said, we are doing our due diligence to collect the data, you know, just as you are. Unfortunately, you know, depending on where you look, it could say different than the article you read yesterday. So, you know, that presents a challenge. So, but we are listening to you, and we understand, you know, the frustrations that we've all experienced in the last year. So, you know, I do thank you for being here. I hope, you know, 2021 school year, you know, brings a lot more positivity and some great things that we can do in the school district, and, you know, hope to see you all again here too, and, you know, continuing your participation and just being part of the process as well. So thank you.
Anything, Julie, anything?
You guys said exactly my thoughts, so good job.
So I'm going to do a roll call vote because we'll be going into executive session. We'll not be coming back out of executive session. Our next school committee meeting is next Wednesday at 7 o'clock, and that is going to be
208.
Back in the 208. We're going to be back in our normal room, but we still will be doing the online Zoom for
Not Zoom,
YouTube, whatever. I'm sorry, YouTube. See, technology and me just don't mix all the time. So I do appreciate everybody. Thank you so much. Let's do a roll call vote, please, to end school committee meeting at 8:38, and then we're going to go into an executive session.
Lisa Brown, aye.
Becky Charniak, aye.
Monique Salvis, aye.
Julie Mulder, aye.
Heather Moore and I. Thank you so much, everybody. Have
Good night,
a wonderful
everyone.
evening.
Thank you.